So when changing the media and cleaning this canister filter, I'll usually use a few buckets, some filter floss, some activated carbon. And this is the brand I typically use. It's the Marine Land. I mean, it's just activated carbon. Activated carbon is activated carbon in my opinion, but I'm sure other people may have a different opinion. I'll usually lay out bags and a mat on the ground to avoid some of the spillage on the carpet. Obviously it's a dirty job. I typically do this outside, but it's late at night and it's winter and it's windy, so I'm doing it indoors. So this will have to do. But yeah, I'll try to provide links to everything that I use in the description of the video. But if you have questions, feel free just to comment below. First things first is I like to unplug the filter and I'll put it in a bucket. And the next thing I'll do is I'll come down here and I'll push this up. You gotta be careful, you don't want to break this here, this piece here. And so what that'll do is that'll turn, that's a valve in there, so that'll stop the water flow coming in from these tubes here. Next thing I'll do is I'll reach into here and I'll pull all these here. It's a little bit difficult for me because I'm recording and doing this, so sorry. I can't really see this clearly. Like that. Break the seal there. There you go. I pulled it out of the bucket so you guys can kind of see how it looks with all the latches undone. They should come undone pretty easy. Once you've pushed this back, you should be able just to pull that off. And you can see, look, there's no water leaking from there because you pushed that valve in. Make sure you hit that valve, push that valve forward, because if you don't, water's gonna leak from these tubes all over the floor. As you can see, it's a little dirty in there, so I'm gonna have to get in there and clean that up a bit. But there it is. There's inside the filter. You can see, you might want to, when you pull this out, you might want to lay it flat so that way you can kind of tell where everything goes. But here's our first filter tray. And you can see I just put some bio balls in there and I have some filter floss. It's a little dirty. I mean, I cleaned this out about 3 weeks ago. But I was in the mood to make a video, so I figured, I'll clean it again and kind of show you guys how I do this. So the first thing I do is I'll get these bio balls. Clean that all out. You can see the filter floss is a little dirty, not too bad. And then what I'll do is I'll run fresh tank water over the top of these and just kind of clean them up, and I'll kind of swish it around a bit, and then I'll put them off to the side, or I'll put them in a clean bucket like this guy here. And then put a little bit of water in there, and just so that way the media doesn't go too dry. You don't want to kill off all your bacteria. So that's what I'll do. I'll run some fresh water over these here, and then I'll put them in there. And then after that, I'll cut a new piece of filter floss out, and I'll put it in there and kind of show you guys how that works. Some water over here. You can also just put them in the bucket and then fill it with water and kind of swish around with your hands. I mean, there's so many different ways you can do this. There's just one method, but I figured I'd show you both. But yeah, normally I would just pour water in there and then just kind of swish it around and mix it with my hands. But I'll also do this just so you guys can kind of see. Throw them in there. Grab some fresh tank water. Saturate them. Around with your hands. It's kind of dark. But you can see now they're just sitting there in that water. That way you're not killing off any of your bacteria, and it's kind of getting a nice little rinse there. With the floss that came from there, what I did was I laid it on top of this here, and then I just kind of cut out I traced it and kind of cut around it, and that way I have another piece of filter floss. And now all I have to do is just poke a hole right here with the scissors, just kind of tear it with my fingers, and then put it back in place. There we go. That's what it looks like once it's all done. Good as new. Next tray. As you can see, it's pretty dirty in there. A lot of poop and waste and bacteria, everything else going on there. But we do the same exact thing with this one. Pull the media out, flush it, and then cut a piece of filter floss, and then just put it right back in there. And sometimes these things can get a little stuck in there and suctioned, so just wiggle it out gently so you don't break the handle, because I've done that before. Shake dry. There it is. Look at that filter. Pretty nasty. Disgusting. And then we do the same thing. Just rinse your media however you see fit, and then cut out your filter floss and put it in there so it looks just like this one here. There you have it. There's our second tray. Identical to the first one. I threw the filter media in there, rinsed it, and then now I'm going to pour this out and then go to the next tray. And when you're cutting this filter floss, make sure you overcut versus undercut, because you don't want any holes going around the edges of this thing. It's better to have it too big than too small. There you go. I drained it, and now you have the next tray. It's more of a divider, and be careful when you pull this thing out, because this one is usually suctioning pretty good if your filter's pretty dirty, but it just pulls out. Give it a good rinse, and this part goes face down like this. So when you're putting it back in the tray, make sure it goes face down. And then now we have the next chamber, which I use activated carbon and more filter floss. So I'll pull this out. There it is, activated carbon inside of a bag. And then you got filter floss in there, and then under that you have a reusable filter that will rinse, a sponge filter. And you can see all that gunk and nastiness under there. That's only 3 weeks. But keep in mind, I have a lot of African cichlids, and I overstock my tank because that's how I like it. And they put out a lot of waste, so it's just part of it. If you overstock, you gotta do more maintenance. So we'll dump that out. We'll rinse this out. We'll use kind of like a piece of filter floss and just kind of clean up all around there to get all that nasty gunk off the sides. And I'll do the same thing here. But this is a little bit different, because carbon, you want to throw away the carbon. We're not going to be reusing carbon. We're going to empty this, rinse the bag, and then refill it with activated carbon, which will help remove some of the chemicals and things like that may be put into your tank from food or however else chemicals are introduced into your tank from tap water. So we'll remove that. There's the filter floss that gets thrown away. Sponge filter, which we'll rinse off. So I'll rinse this off and change the carbon and cut the floss again and reassemble it, and we'll go from there. There we go. And now you just want to reassemble it the same way we took it apart. And so what I did was I marked the corner where the pipe is with a sticker. So that way I knew kind of how all this, like how the tray sits in there. You can see it goes right in there, slides. So that's tray number 1. And then remember we have this guy, the little nub on the top, the little pipe goes up. You want to make sure it's pushed down there pretty flush. Otherwise, you might have some trouble getting the lid back on, depending on how much media you use, because there's some people that use a ton of media. I use a moderate amount, but there's other people that will stuff these things full. So make sure that the lever pushes down. There you go, and you can see it sits nice and flush with this edge right here. It's nice and flush, it fits in perfect. What we want to do is fill this with water fill your canister filter with water, and then put the lid back on. So this tube here should match up to this corner here. The little tube is sticking out right there. So put that back on once you fill this thing with water. Put the latches back on. Keep in mind, once you put that lid down in there, that's going to push a lot of that water off the side. So make sure you have something underneath to catch all the water that's going to fall, overflow, because it does make a mess. So make sure you do that. There you have it. The lid's back on. Now you want to connect your hose. Back on there. It's a little tricky because I'm using one hand here. Be patient with me. There we go. So you got that in. You want to make sure everything's tight. Make sure double check these if you have to. Make sure those are good. Make sure your latches are nice and secure, because the last thing you want is this sucker leaking all over your floor. Right, that'd be a nightmare. So yeah, make sure that's tight. And then you can go on and plug it in. I didn't even have to prime it or anything. Start it right up. Just always adjusting. But if your filter didn't start up like that, then what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna hit this. What I do is I'll push it and I'll hold it for a few seconds, maybe like 5-6 seconds, and then lift up. Push it, hold it again for another 5 seconds, lift up, and I'll just keep doing that until it siphons water down the tubes into the filter, and then that should start it out. So there you go. From here, I'll usually do a water change, because you can see, look at the water's turning a little bit yellow, because all that stuff that wasn't properly cleaned in the filter. So I'll do a quick water change, clear up some of that water, and then that'll be really it. That's all there is to it. Pretty easy. I love the Sunshine filters. They're very, very simple to take apart, very easy to prime, and just overall very affordable. I think I paid like only $40 for this thing. So it's a great filter. I highly recommend it. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you.